Welcome to HR and IT, Developing an Intentional Partnership. This session grew out of a couple different strands of conversations. One of them was sort of with our HR group discussion that we have on Wednesday afternoons at 4, and talking about throughout the pandemic how people were using technology, and technology that may not have been brought into the HR office or the business office, but existed within the school, and how that could be used for HR. And that was a very kind of ongoing and casual conversation. And then another conversation that's been ongoing for a while is that Susan Davis, who is the professional development director at Atlas, and I have talked about how can Atlas and for those of you who don't know Atlas, it's the Association for Tech Leaders in Independent Schools. How can we partner to better support our members? So, Susan and I have gone back and forth on various different ideas, and we started talking about this idea, and that is the genesis of this session. So without further ado, I am going to turn the reins over to Susan Davis.
Well, thank you so much, Martha, and thank you for having Atlas. We really value the partnership, and we see lots of ways in which technology and the HR department and business officers and all the other offices within an independent school can work together and improve the environment for all of the people that they work with and for. So I am, as Martha said, I'm Susan Davis. I'm the Professional Development Director for Atlas, the Association of Technology Leaders in Independent Schools. And I am here to introduce Rebecca Rowland, Director of Human Resources at Campbell Hall Episcopal, and Peter Antipet, Chief Information Officer at Crystal Springs Upland Schools. And they're going to talk to you about HR and IT developing an intentional partnership. And I believe this is where I'm supposed to do the first poll. Is that right, Rebecca?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to.
And then we'll bounce back to the overview.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and launch the poll. We would love for you to take part in this. This is going to help our discussion today. So I am going to launch the poll. And you should all, do you all see it?
Zero people have voted. Oh, here we go. Okay, great.
And as Martha said, please feel free to put comments and questions in the chat. And we want to remind everybody to put your name and the number of continuing education credits that you might like to have for this session. We'll give you another reminder about that later.
All right, we just had a couple of people join us, so maybe they can jump on the poll before we end it really quick.
Yep, we've got a few people who have answered the poll.
Okay, I think we're over 80%, and I hear that is the
magic number. That's the magic number. Okay.
93% now. So thank you, guys.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. I'm going to end the poll, and you should be able to see the results. Can you see the results?
Okay. And that's pretty much how we thought it would look. And I will say for myself, I kind of, even though I'm presenting in this, I do feel like I still have kind of a parallel relationship with my IT department. And I think as a result of presenting on this with Peter, I am going to reach out more. I look forward to meeting the person who said that they partner regularly and should probably be giving this presentation. I think that's awesome.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so why don't we just read the results for the video, for the posterity, for the recording? Yeah. So sure. 40% said we partner on the basics, onboarding, offboarding, etc. 33% said we have a good relationship, but we run parallel. rarely intersecting. And then we have a few others in the first category. We contact them only in case of emergency. That's sort of like, break glass, when emergency break glass situation. And then a few, just one person in each case said we partner regularly and probably should be giving this presentation. And then there's one other. So I'm kind of curious about that one other as well. Peter, if you want to move on to the next, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, there we go. And if you want to move on to the next slide, that's great. And I'm just going to basically provide an overview and let you hear from Peter and Rebecca and this marvelous collaboration that they've come to over the course of the last several months. And I was supposed to say how we got here, but Martha already did that. I'm going to follow up on that and say just a little bit by saying it's been an absolute pleasure to watch Peter and Rebecca collaborate and explore even more ways that HR and the technology office can work together to the improvement of the schools. So to give you an overview, they're going to talk about some tools first. I think it's natural gravitation, towards these are the tools that are useful for you, that are techie tools. These are some things you've thought about. These are some things you may not have thought about. And then we are also going to, after that, talk about 3 critical areas where you might collaborate more effectively. And that is cybersecurity and data safety, absolutely critical area. Onboarding and offboarding, which has been mentioned, but a little bit fleshing out what that means. Training it comes up again. It comes up in the tools, but also again here. And then the 4th area would be communications, partnering for the message. So I'm just going to turn this over to the team.
All right, thank you so much, Susan. We have a quick Padlet, and I don't know how many of you have used Padlet before. I'm going to drop the link into the chat very quickly here so that you can access it. And basically, it's just a quick kind of jot down what, oh, dang it. I'm being vulnerable with my technology. Oh, wow. I've completely lost the link. Hold on, let me see if I can undo
I
it.
could
There
grab it for you.
Yeah, that would be great, Susan. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just grab those links for you, and we'll and then you won't have to worry about it.
I think I Command X or Command
Okay.
F or something. I don't know.
Here's the Padlet. Yes, there you go.
Perfect. Okay, so in order to participate on this, you would just click on that link, and then you can click on that pink plus down at the bottom just to add your own commentary. And what we're looking for here are just a discussion of any roadblocks that you might feel exist if you've either tried to forge a partnership with IT, or maybe you haven't yet, and maybe that's something that you want to talk about. So we're just going to take a few minutes for this.
I'm not going to, hi everyone, I'm Peter Ant, but I'm not going to share the Padlet because everybody should be on it right now. Hope that's okay.
I'm seeing it. Is that?
Yeah, I am too. Okay, so I think this is a great way to begin the conversation. I'm just for posterity's sake and for the video recording, saying some of the things that are on the Padlet. Different languages, communication can be challenging. That's interesting. Lack of integration with any existing programs, funding, better flow of communication. Good. You guys are being great and honest and open. Okay, IT lacks willingness and knowledge to be of assistance. There's a challenge there, but yeah, absolutely.
I suppose we could have done this in the chat. However, we wanted it to be entirely anonymous for everyone. And so, you know, as we haven't actually added this onto our possible tools that you can use, but this is definitely something that you can use if you have internal presentations that you're doing at school. Maybe you've seen this used more on the faculty side. I know a lot of our faculty use it in their classrooms. But thanks so much, guys. Let's see here.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint if I can find it. It's always great to find the IT guy having a hard time. There we go. We're good?
Okay. Phew, yeah. All right. I was worried that it was me. All right. So, you know, as we're talking about IT and HR, the first thing you think of is, you know, automation. What can IT and HR do together to make a more automated process within your organizations? And so on the right side there, I've got, you know, the things that a paperless HR department will have. You know, you've got challenges with your handbooks, your timesheets. Old employee files is a huge one. I recently converted these and it was a real trip down memory lane with some of these files. Applications, check requests and other business office documents, professional development requests and approvals, performance evaluations, and I'm sure there are more. And then some of the different ways that these can be solved. And, you know, we all know what these are. It's just taking that leap and, you know, developing that partnership with IT to be able to endeavor to do this. It takes a really big investment up front, but it does pay off in dividends in the long run, I will say. We are largely paperless in our office, and while there's still some things always left to file, the amount of filing is greatly reduced. But some of the ways that you can solve these problems, and there's a bunch of different ones, you can use online forms, which ties into electronic signatures below. We have some functions such as our professional development that IT had developed a portal for. So a way for people to go in and request, and then for supervisors to then approve. We use a lot of our existing HRIS platform, which I will just say everybody knows. We use Paycom, and we have pretty much every feature that they offer. And then an additional third-party vendor. Right now, I'm working with a third-party vendor to bring my handbook online and make it more of a live document. And then electronic signatures, there's a variety of frameworks that you can use for that. And that's actually one area where we aren't paperless in my organization, but it's definitely on my goals. And then Peter had showed me a couple of amazing email tools, and he has to show them to you because I was just blown away by the possibilities with these features.
So I'm going to pop over to a screen share. Hopefully you all can see this, and it's probably not going to work right. So let me just quickly do this. It's always fun, like I said, to see the IT guys struggling, but it should work. Let's see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, let me open up by saying that I'm going to talk a lot about tools. I don't get paid to talk about any of these tools. I've been involved with Atlas for a long time, so I've gathered a lot of these tools from listservs and such. But here we go. So this is a tool that I love called YAM, and it's yet another mail merge. We are a G Suite school, so a lot of the tools we use integrate directly with Google. So this is a mail merge for email. So what you'll see right here is this is a standard email that I've used, and this happened to be for spring conferences. What's nice about this tool is you can put your merge in the subject line of the mail. This also has a link, and you can see we can personalize it a little bit. It just gets a much greater return rate when you have the student's name in there. So I'm going to close that one out, and you probably can't see it. So let me go back and screen share again. I just want to share desktop 3, but it's not letting me do it. So I will come back to this one. So now what the next thing I do is I create a Google Sheet, and I've hidden all the names here so that we don't have to worry about that. So here what you'll see is the column A would have the email address it goes out to. And you can do multiple email addresses separated by a column if you need to do that. And then just all your filled fields are here. And what's very cool is you can see that this tracks everything. This how many are opened, how many have clicked, etc., how many bounced, which is always useful, and who may have unsubscribed from them. I'm going to have to stop share again and then pull up the next thing. But you can see how useful this is. As you roll over it, you actually get to see when they opened it. We tend to send things out into the ether and just hope that people have opened it. This is a tracking report, so that's really useful. Sorry, I'm going to have to stop share and then do this yet another time. This is going to be really frustrating for all of us, and I apologize for that. I should have thrown these into a PowerPoint. And come back again. What's cool about this also is that you get a tracking report, but you also can do a bunch of follow-ups right here, automated. You can just click off who you want, and then boom, they're done. And what I love about this is actually in a new thread or in the same thread. So they can either see that they haven't opened the first one, or you can send it again and make it pop to the top of their inbox and make it look brand new to them. So anyway, this is called Yam. It's a Gmail plugin, and so I really like that one. The next one is called Boomerang, and let me go here. I don't know if it works with 365, and I apologize for that. And while we're talking, I'll do some digging into that. Another one I like, and again, this is again a Gmail one, is called Boomerang. What Boomerang does is it's a little bit like the Gmail snooze. This is within a message that I've received. And so I've clicked on a Boomerang box within this. And again, this one's not very expensive. I want to say it's $50 a year. It does a lot of things like snooze does, but you can quickly do the Boomerang it back. I'm sorry, this is the outgoing. My bad. This is the outgoing. What you can do is if you don't get a response, you can have it click off. No, this is incoming. I'm sorry. I'm over caffeinated and a little tired, so I apologize. So when I go to send a message, I can have it come back. This is when it comes back. I can't do it out of isolation here. What you'll see here is when you want a message to come back to you, you can have it come back to you. If it doesn't, there's no reply. You can have it come back to you like the next day, but you can also choose a random time. There's also one underneath here that says recurring. So if you send the same message out every month, you can actually just recur that message over and over again. And that's actually what you'll see in this next one. When I'm sending a message, you can do send later, which is just like the Google send. But what's cool is you can do here is the remind. So that, often we're pushing people off to folks and say the ball's in their court, but this will actually give you a reminder if they actually haven't done anything with it. And there's also a nice read receipt with this little question mark there, and also another reminder option there. So that's just Boomerang. Those are two tools that I've found are crazy useful for getting things, a lot of work done automated on Gmail. And I'll look into 365 and see if it works for 365. I apologize. Okay. Next is a couple of things that we've done around.
Peter, can you hold up a sec?
Yes.
We did have a question about electronic signatures. Do we want to handle that now or wait?
Signature line in email?
Well, the question is, they use Bamboo HR, so we get the electronic signatures, but how do we find out if that platform's capture of e-signatures is acceptable under California law?
I'm not an HR professional. Rebecca?
My recommendation is just to check with the vendor. They should have documentation on that. That's what I would do. The other alternative is to go into, the legislation and look for specific parameters that they're looking for, and then ask Bamboo pointedly about those specific parameters.
And I don't be afraid to ask the vendors what you need to know. I mean, this is something that I think we work with at Atlas all the time with training our new leadership institute fellows. If you want to have a relationship with a vendor and you want to have a vendor you can trust, but that means asking the questions and expecting, a trustworthy and thorough answer.
A couple of tools that we use for screen recording, which is great for handing out directions. Loom is a free one that's available for, I'm totally transitioning here. This is tools that we use to help get information out to folks. Screen recording is a really useful one. Loom is free to schools, and it has a wonderful opportunity to put a little dingbat of yourself talking, a spotlight throughout the screen, so you can point to things and move yourself around on the screen to be able to show stuff. Zoom, as we know, is a great recording tool, and QuickTime is one that's built into Macs. Really useful for folks in terms of getting directions out there, and I have an example of one that I'll show you in a little bit. The other thing we've done to help all employees is institutional bookmarks. Again, this is a Chrome thing, and I'm sure there's a way to do this with Office 365 if you're an Explorer domain, is that we push a set of bookmarks to all employees. So you'll see here that at the top of the list, it says CSUS. And that is the same link for everybody who's logged into their school email account. They all get these same links. So we know that everybody can get access to these things. They don't have to search through a list of bookmarks. It's always at the top, and it's always the most important things that they need for the school. So those are the kinds of things we've done, a couple of tools.
I'm just going to break in just for 1 second here. I put it in the chat, but it got lost. If you want continuing ed creds, you're going to have to put it in the chat again. So I just asked for it. Just put whether you want HRC, SHRM, or both. And each time I ask, you need to do it, because they do ask that we just make sure that you're engaged. It's not our requirement, it's their requirement. So if you would pop that in the chat, and I will put another one in later on. So keep your eye on the chat for that. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. This is an interactive for sure. Yeah, and as we go along, we are going to have these slides posted. So certainly keep your own laundry list of things that you want to reach out to your IT department about. I know I am. But just know that these slides are going to be posted shortly after the conference. All right. And then on my part of things, we're going to talk in a little bit about different ways that I have used our learning management system for our HR programming. So we could go ahead and launch into the examples if you'd like, Peter.
Okay. So something that I've done, and I'm going to share again, see if I can do it more seamlessly this time.
You're still sharing, Peter.
Yep, here we go. How about that? Different?
No.
Is it a video?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is a video that I created 2 minutes long about how to apply for PG funds. This one's a little bit different than other videos I've created for our school. Normally it's around how to use the learning management system for faculty or students, how to do various things. This one has a lengthy introduction about why this form works and the purpose of PG and what you're doing. And then as you go, after I'm done talking, and I'm not going to make you listen to it or watch it, about halfway through, I bring them right to, like I said, these set of bookmarks. So they're the same for everybody in the school. So I can guarantee that people can find what they need because I just tell them to go to those bookmarks. They get to our old Google site that I know I need to change over, and then talk a little bit about what's required here, how to find the link, how to then go to the link and get the form. And the way the video works well, I think, is because I'm showing them a lot of different tools that we use in order to get to the process they need. So I'm walking them really carefully through the process. And most people need to see this once, and some people want to review it over and over again every time they do PG requests. This is the tool we used in Form K-12. This is our electronic signatures tool. You just log in, you go, it's a standard one. This routes, which is beautiful. And when you're in the form, just as an example of a form, You go in, all the required fields. This is nice. It actually calculates the per diem as you enter information in. Me talking that all through. You have to add an attachment to it, and then you just get submitted, and you're good to go. It goes on to the next person in the chain. So that's one tool that we use, and that's one way we've used video. And talking a little bit about the LMS, the
Yeah.
learning management system.
Well, actually, before we do that, I know we didn't do this as a poll, but I'm just curious, how many of you are pushing videos out to your populations as a way of kind of getting the word out as an alternative to emails? If you could just jump into the chat and just, if you are, go ahead and just say yes, or I do, or something like that. This is something that I have always kind of toyed with the idea of doing, but I never did it, just because I like to connect with folks in person. But now, in the age of Zoom and whatnot, I have been recording my Zooms and making those available for people who haven't been able to make it to the meeting. So that's been really great. But I am definitely looking forward to kind of checking out Loom and being able to show people on my screen different features and all of that. So that's really exciting. Just checking the chat.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions.
Lots of questions. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So first, backing up a little bit to Peter,
Yes.
the source for the institutional bookmarks, you did that within the admin of Google,
Correct.
the G Suite.
Yeah, it's part of the admin console. Your IT department should be able to find the directions on how to do that. If I can dig up those directions, I will put that in the chat. It's going to be a Google admin trick.
Right. But that's just one more reason to connect with your IT team and figure out how to get that done. The next question was about the tool for electronic PG requests.
So what we use is it's Inform K-12. It's like a DocuSign. It was a little bit less expensive for us to sign on to, and it's just a fillable form that that also allows for routing. So first you fill it out, then it goes to the department head or your manager, and once they approve it, it goes to the business office to sign off on, or the final PG committee, and then the CFO in order to sign off and send the check. So that's the tool we use. It's called Inform K-12. It used to be called Chalk Schools, but they changed the name. And we use it for everything. We use it for PG funds. We do our summer mailing through it. Everything we run through it. Like, how do we get graduation diploma names? When HR has to send a notice and we want to make sure that everybody's read the notice, instead of using something like YAM, we often send it through Inform K-12, which requires a stamped signature and a date right on the document. So it can be downloaded as a big PDF to show that we've sent off those required documents.
Thanks. And then we did have a couple of people chime in that they are using videos for instructional reasons.
Great.
And also to support education on self-service items, which is really great. I think that a lot of us just need to kind of maybe help push our boundaries a little bit and get in there and get these things out. Okay, so this is something that kind of popped into my head when we initially started brainstorming this presentation. I don't know how unique this is. Maybe there are other folks who also are using their school's LMS. First of all, let me talk about what an LMS is. LMS stands for Learning Management System, and it's the programming that your faculty use for all of their class stuff with their students. So they are able to create a page for every class, and they manage, what assignments are due and what resources and all of those things. So when I started working with a colleague of mine in our organization to start offering a financial wellness or financial literacy class to our employees, we created a page in what was Haiku, but now is Power School Learning, to kind of manage that class. So you can see on the left side, there's all of the different class modules. And then within each of those, we have the ability to put different content. videos, links. It's just such a really great resource to be able to use to push out a lot of content and have it live in one place. We do this class twice a year, so we just have everything there, and then we just kind of check in and update it as we need to. And then if you want to go to the next slide, Peter. All right. And then similarly, we are using our resource board. So this is basically our intranet. This is through Blackbaud, which I know a lot of schools use. And so I have a couple of different tiles on our resource board, which is available to all faculty. And this is just an example of one of them. This is our employee wellness tiles. So you can see starting on the left is the tile that's on the page. And then once you get to the page, you have these menus that you can kind of delve into. So when you click into the menu, so for example, mindfulness meditation, you can then see more details. And so this is where we're able to kind of keep everything again in one place, where faculty knows where to go and find, especially in this time of Zoom, because it's constantly like, where's the Zoom link? How do I get into that? So all of this is in one place. The Zoom links are there. And then in addition, we also have the page set up to have a Google Calendar fill onto the page. And then on the calendar, you can also click, and that's another way that you can get the Zoom links. And it's definitely been a huge tool that we've been able to use to kind of keep all of these wellness initiatives in the time of Zoom available to our employees.
So this is the transitional part of our chat. Not just, we're going to focus now more on a little less from tools and more about how we can collaborate. And this transitional point is all about cybersecurity. So some basics that probably all of you know, but I'm going to just talk because I like the sound of my own voice and I need to burn off this energy. So first of all is just the idea of phishing. Phishing, we've all seen this before. This is where a blanket email goes out to a whole bunch of people, randomly or not so randomly, saying, hey, please click here to activate or to track your FedEx package. Someone clicks there, they get the, says log into your bank for us to track it, whatever. And you know what happens from there. They get your credentials and they do all sorts of bad things. Spear phishing is something that's very targeted. And we've seen spear phishing happening in several different places. The most common place we've seen spear phishing is actually from coaches. So people go through, they troll our website, they find the coaches, and they they create a fake email address from our AD, send it to the coach and say, hey, this is, Bobby, I'm in a meeting, can you send me a gift card for iTunes? And they put in sort of like BobbyCrystal@gmail.com, for example. So it looks like maybe it could be him, but it's not really him. So what we've done, that's like the most innocuous, and usually people can spot that. But there have been worse ones. So for example, we got hit in our payroll, an administrative assistant. HR got a notice saying, please change my direct deposit. And it had the person's name on it and said, hi, this is Linda, please change my direct deposit. Here's my new bank account. So luckily we've been doing a lot of training with KnowBe4. And so it looked fishy, and our HR person reached out to them directly and said, hey, did you send me this email? And of course they had not, and somebody was just hoping to steal money. So a couple things we've done is phishing campaigns, and we do them about quarterly. We send out phishing and then we rank it up. And what that is it's a fake fish. It's like a double negative kind of a thing. It's a fake fish that we send, and we track if people click, they ratchet up in terms of difficulty. So the latest one was very good. It had like an American Airlines logo on it. It said, click here to confirm your flight. Very, very well done by KnowBe4. What we do is we ratchet those up and we track people. And if they click on two phishing campaigns consistently, we take them aside and do a little bit of training. We send them screenshots of things to look for. On our side, what we've done also is we've put in a consistent footer on all of our emails, and there are tools that will do this automatically. We also do this, we don't do it automatically, but we have our employees do this when they're onboarded. So everybody has the same footer. We also put the photo on their profile picture. So those are two ways that we can at least look for to look quickly to see if it's legit. So those are two things we do about phishing and spear phishing. Another cybersecurity thing we do is every user has a login to their computer that lets them do the work they need to do, but it does not allow them to install software. So we have 2 other accounts on every computer on campus for that employees use. The second account is one that has administrative rights to that computer to install software. So for example, with all the Zoom updates, if IT had to go to every computer in order to update Zoom for everybody, it would be hours and hours. So what we allow them to do is install updates as they need to. And when they go to install an update, it says, hey, you need administrative rights. Give me those credentials. That makes it easier for IT so that people can run updates, but it also gives the individual a pause, like, hey, if I'm downloading or installing this thing, do I need to be? And should I be? And we ask people to absolutely reach out to IT, submit a ticket, send us a screenshot, or call us if it seems urgent about what to do there. So that's what we do there. And then, of course, there's an IT account that has administrative rights. So the next thing that we talk about is antivirus, which is ransomware, all those horrible things. And I'm sure you've all seen in the news that schools have become increasingly easy targets for cyber criminals, bad actors, to put ransomware out there. This is absolutely a school-wide issue, so you definitely need centralized antivirus. In addition, the other part that gets a little funky is malware, which isn't always picked up by antivirus. And that can be a rogue extension that gets installed on your browser, that you click to convert a PDF through a web browser, and all of a sudden it installs something on there. So malware is another one. We've actually started installing malware protection on key employees in addition to antivirus to double down. I guess you'd call that belt and suspenders, as my friend Kurt would call it. Another thing we do around cybersecurity is encryption. What we've done is we've encrypted every computer, every employee computer. That means if your laptop is stolen, nobody can hook up your laptop to another computer and then get access to those files. They're encrypted. So it's a little bit, it's actually an amazing layer of protection about protecting data. And some people put personal stuff on their machines, so that's on there too. We centrally manage that through Sophos. Again, not a shameless plug for Sophos. Both Windows and Mac machines have the ability to do that for free built into their operating system. So that encryption is key. That's a free thing that can be done. The last thing is, I think, something that really we can talk about together is password management. So currently we only have password management in our IT department. We're going to be rolling out password management to administrative staff within departments for admissions, for advancement, for the business office, for administrative assistants, etc. And we view this as critical for us in terms of business continuity, in terms of employees leaving, in terms of really stupid passwords. I should probably say that, but really simple passwords that somebody could guess. If you're sharing passwords through, and we're going to use 1Password for that, we are going to, although 1Password is a horrible bad password. We're going to share this by department so that the passwords can be much more sophisticated and people won't email passwords back and forth or have Post-its on their desks anymore. So that's something that we're going to be doing. And I think that gets us to our next poll, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
And is this poll number 2?
It is.
Okay, I am launching the poll. No, I was playing around with some of the passwords that we hear about. And I'm guilty of this. I've been on the internet for a long time. I've had bad passwords and reused passwords. It was convenient at one time. We didn't think we had to worry about these things. But unfortunately, we now all have to worry about these things. I recently heard from someone at an Atlas partner, Ankara, who is part of their cybersecurity team, and he was formerly with the FBI's cybersecurity office, and he was saying how there was one breach that happened just because someone had my password, or that their last name and the number 1, and they said, well, you got to change that. I mean, you just have to change that password, and they changed it to their name and number 2, and the person got right back in there.
All right, so we're at 86%. I think that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and end that one.
Okay,
I'm actually pretty impressed with these results. I'm feeling a little out of the loop here. So we had 38% who said that they do partner with IT on password management as a kind of HR concern. 38% who also, which is me, I hadn't really thought about it before, but yes. And then we had 23% who said not really, but nobody said definitely not. So that's refreshing. All right. And I think you were going to share the next resource that we have.
Yes, I'm going to close out the poll. So one of the things, this is shameless plug number 7 probably, is the Atlas Guide for Cybersecurity Recommendations, and I'm going to quickly run through that. What's nice about these recommendations, and there's the link, I'm going to pull it up and let you take a look at them. It's a wonderful, only 7-page guide to get you launched. So let's start with that. It's digestible. And what's really nice about it is it has 3 areas of focus after you've read all of this. It talks about the technology team, what your technology department should be doing, the human factor in terms of employee education, and then your procedures and policies. And through each level, and I think there are 3 levels, there might be 4, is just what are you doing in each of those in order to up your game in terms of cybersecurity. And definitely, I view this as more than just an IT issue. I view this as definitely HR because of the access to all the information. But we've also found that employees appreciate this extra bit of knowledge with cybersecurity for their own personal use. They've just found that they've been able to spot phishes and scams and be a little bit safer with their own finances and personal information because of it. So that's it. Atlas, so here's the next one. Atlas also has a workshop that IT professionals can go to. And I think they're now half day over Zoom. Is that right, Susan?
There are actually 2 half days, and we will run this workshop in October, November, and then in March. So there are 2.5 hour to 3 hour sessions where we take you through some of the elements of cybersecurity. We'd love to have teams join us, and we are partnering with many regional organizations to make a discount available. So stay tuned for information on that.
Okay, and we've already done our poll results, and so we're going to move on. So Rebecca, you want to talk about your application tracking?
Sure. Yeah. So as we know, one of the natural partnerships between IT and HR is the onboarding and offboarding, because we're the ones who basically meet every employee as they come and go through our organizations. There's a lot of ways, depending on your applicant tracking system or your HRIS, that you can maybe set up some checklists to make this process a little bit more automated. But you can also create kind of a more homegrown approach using checklists and Google Forms, which Peter's going to talk about.
Yeah, so we use a lot of homegrown stuff. We don't have a robust HRIS. So I'm going to just kind of pull up here, and I'm going to have to do this crazy monkeying about again, and I apologize for that. What we do is we just have a Google form that we ask hiring managers to fill out. And it just says the name of the employee, etc., what email list they need to be on, their designation. We create a new email address for every position we're hiring for. So in middle school English, so we have that opened, it collects resumes, and then we close that out once it's done, and we make sure to put in their title and their role. So the next thing we do is we then ask people the new employee to fill out a form. Really simple. What's their personal email address, because we want to send them their credentials. Also gives us a way to communicate with them. Their name, what pronouns, their email preference, like a nickname if they would like to prove that. And then we start asking information so we can start doing our budgeting. So we can, do you want a Mac or a PC, etc. Now, this is great. It's a Google form that populates a Google Sheet. And again, I apologize for those of you. I'm sure there's a way you can do this through Microsoft Office as well, or other forms. But what we've done is we've just set up simple notification rules. And on those notification rules, we give access to everybody who needs it. So our web admin, IT, obviously the HR department, CFO, so that they can go in and change these notification rules so that when a form is submitted or anybody makes any changes, you can see that there are action items for you to take care of. So it's just a really simple way, simple free way to track those kind of that kind of stuff.
Peter, unfortunately, you're getting some of the black bars that are happening with Zoom these days. So just to let you know, we're back now. Yeah, but sometimes when you share from that other source.
Got it. Thank you very much for letting me know. Okay.
All right. And then another natural kind of partnership, which should be happening with every department, but certainly with IT department, is on the training side. So HR should be training and coaching IT managers who may or may not have had experience, supervising other employees before they became managers, on basic things like interviewing, performance management, those types of activities. And then on the other side of it, IT is assisting HR in helping with professional development of employees, kind of like what Peter mentioned earlier. If they recognize that there's an employee who kind of falls for these phishing things, they're going to pull them aside and, give them a little bit more information and training in that area. This can also apply with just actual usage of technology, which we know schools tend to be on the cutting edge, and we expect a lot from our employees. So we need to be able to provide the support that they need in order to use all of these great tools that are available to us. And then I will, of course, let you give your shameless plug number 42 regarding the Atlas Leadership Institute.
So full disclosure, I'm on the faculty of this Atlas Leadership Institute, and this might be a great thing for folks who are finding they're having communication issues with their IT department. I can actually let Susan talk about it a little bit, but it's been in existence 5 years, is that right?
Yes.
And I think we've had about 75 or so people come through the Institute. Take it away, Susan.
Well, just basically that you should know from your perspective, from an HR perspective, we have 5 challenges that we have our leaders, our fellows go through. We call them fellows. Our leaders go through, and one of those challenges focuses specifically on HR issues, partnering with other people in the administrative office. We really want to grow the kinds of technology leaders that are not just supporting the back end technology and not just supporting the technology that's happening in the classroom. That's typically what we think of. There's that third arm of supporting the staff who keep the school running and humming along. And we really promote that kind of partnership throughout everything that we do in the Institute. So if you know of someone at your school, we are still taking applications. That's the shameless plug part. We'd love to hear from you.
And this is a good time for me to say, you should put again in the chat if you want your HRCI and SHRM credits for continuing ed.
Right. And you know what, Peter, I think I'm going to ask you to talk about the data committee before you get these kind of
Sure.
somewhat closing thoughts that are on the right side of this
Yeah.
coin.
You got it. So a data committee the idea is that you get folks across all the siloed departments and who needs what data. This is definitely about sharing personal information, not only of families, excuse me, but also of employees. Like who really needs the cell phone numbers of every employee or addresses of every employee. These are important pieces of data, as you know, to keep safe. So pulling together folks from advancement, admissions, IT, obviously, the head of school's office, who needs this information, and just talk about the importance of keeping it private and really think about justifying who needs what and where it's collected, because nothing's worse than filling out the same information on 7 different forms when we as a school could actually share that information across departments. And this is I guess this is number 44, shameless plug. There's a great tool out there called Name Coach. If you don't know it already, it's not cheap. But what it does is it allows employees to record their names, the way that they pronounce their names, as well as their honorifics, and their pronouns. You actually, once you buy this service, it actually is good for students as well. And it's great for people to be able to understand how to say each other's names, which names are powerful. So there's that part.
That's really neat. And then just as kind of a reminder, because I've said it already, but it's just so important to keep the lines of communication open between HR and IT. And again, we're the only departments that meet or know everyone. And I even included this kind of mention that IT and HR should keep in touch regarding employee well-being. A lot of times, you know, people are going to IT when they're like in a really kind of stressful situation. Maybe, you know, they're having trouble with their computer or, you know, things like that. And it's really great if IT can just kind of give HR a heads up and clue them in that, you know, this person might be having a tough time, you know, might want to reach out to them or to their supervisor just to make sure everything is okay. It's just another great way that there's that, not, you know, you're not running in parallel, you're actually intersecting.
IT tends to see people at their worst.
Slide.
I was just,
Yes.
yeah, IT tends to see people at their worst. Technology is emotional. That's no doubt about it.
100%. I think we've all experienced that. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. It's 10:52. We have 2 options here that we were going to offer you. Either you can go into a breakout room and talk about some of the strategies that you've used or will use to form a partnership with IT. We'd love it if you would think in terms of your action plan as far as what are you going to do in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. Or you can stay in the main room or return to the room. I think because we're a fairly small group, I think maybe we just stay in the main room. And we've even got the ability to open up mics. And if somebody has some strategies that they'd like to share, or if they have some intentions that they would like to speak into the chat, for, you know, those game plans. I know, like for myself, I've mentioned my laundry list, but I want you guys to kind of chime in and let us know what you're thinking in terms of strategies. Thank you.
And I'll just follow up and say that I would love to hear from people about, you know, what they perceive of as opportunities to connect with and collaborate with their tech departments.
Go right ahead, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Unmute yourself.
Hi, team. So I am just starting at Providence High School, and I'm coming from another independent school. And we are focusing on single sign-on, so you don't have a ton of different sign-ons everywhere with different passwords. So one sign-on for everything. And that seems to be our strategy. And how do we get that integrated? And it's complicated and it's something new that I've never experienced, but it's working with the IT department very closely to its permissions and who gets what access and why do they need the access. Kind of exactly what we're talking about here today. So that's kind of the strategy for our year ahead.
That's amazing. Yeah, single sign-on is the best thing ever. one of the things that I was going to mention, that we recently rolled out two-factor,
Mhm.
help me, Peter, what is it called?
Two-factor
Identification.
authentication or multi-factor
That's it.
authentication.
Authentication, yes. And when my husband works for the school, so he's been kind of cranky about that, and I wish that my IT department had kind of partnered with me to help them kind of roll that out and maybe create some opportunities for conversations in our organization around, why we need to do it and, what's so important about it. So that's kind of another one that's been on the horizon here as well. Anybody
As you
else
can-
have some fun ideas that they want to share in the chat if you don't want to turn your cameras on?
I'll give
I
a
have a
plug for
question.
some of-
I have a general question for Peter. Well, maybe both of you. So let's say you're in a very small school and you outsource all the IT.
Mm.
What kind of suggestions would you have for people who do that?
I would first start with the cybersecurity booklet from Atlas and just run that through with your outsourced folks. That should give you a sense of how invested they are in the entire institution as opposed to just getting their own stuff done. Then from there, you might have to, grow your own skills for certain types of things to make it happen and ask for their assistance in it. Early plug for single sign-on whenever possible. IT should love single sign-on because when a user leaves, it's so easy to suspend all those accounts at once and not have to track them all. It's so easy to create them all at once. It's a dream. It means there is the front loading of it, but it is amazing. So when you're a small shop, that's where you should focus. You should definitely be reaching out to those consultants also and say, hey, what have you seen in other schools? What other best practices should I be working on that you've seen? And what are, talk to them about your priorities and how they can make them happen.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, even if you outsource your IT, somebody at the school has to take ownership or at least oversight of cybersecurity issues. And why not you, right? Why not have that be you so that you already have a reason to start building that relationship with the people in that outsourced group.
I have a question for Peter.
All right. Well,
I have a question for
go
Peter.
ahead.
Sure.
Is there anybody that's had a solution that they've developed out of necessity because of the diffused workforce and, the work from home that they are never going to live without again? I know that there's been discussion on some of our HR calls that they handle payroll differently, or like, is there a technology solution that you've used that basically just, whether it's tracking, how you're tracking things, or how you're making sure that people are doing what, or are training, anything. Is there something that you just out of necessity have come upon these past 18 months?
It's so simple, but it's actually Zoom. We've talked a lot about how we can leverage more and more Zoom. We're a school on 2 campuses, and when you need to grab, a bunch of a group together, it's really simple to push information out and to have a short meeting about something. That we have continued to leverage things like YAM more and more, where we're not able to put things in people's mailboxes for a wet signature, but we're able to make sure that everybody's getting the information they need. That's something we've really invested in also. It's been a lot of that. We had fortunately been doing a lot of planning for disaster, or what do you call it, business continuity, based on for wildfires up here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so we've been moving a lot of things out to the cloud and to make things available for remote for several years now. So our pivot was quick, but those are a couple things that have really helped us.
I guess this is a good reminder that maybe over the summer to have with your admin team, like a conscious discussion of what worked, what didn't work, what we want to develop, what we never want to see again in the way of tech tools, or, so that you're all sharing what you're learning about that. I mean, I think we were so focused on moving forward, which is good, but looking back at what worked and since we haven't been on campus together the whole time, there might be some people doing things that we're not aware of, which isn't good for a number of reasons. So
Martha, you're absolutely right.
I did see we had.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Peter. I just want to make sure there is one more question in the chat that I want to make sure we cover, and we are at 11 o'clock now.
Yeah, for IT access for staff on leave. Do you mean access to their accounts and such, or do you mean can they reach out for IT help?
Sorry, my camera is kind of off and not working. So my question is, our concern is we have staff members who are out on medical leave and who are accessing email, responding to email, hourly employees who are then technically working. So we're trying to figure out a solution. Our IT department says, well, we don't want to cut them off from information, but at the same time, I want to reduce liability.
Right. Yeah, great question. Again, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an HR professional. So partnering with our business office, what we've done is we created a form where we ask them what they want to be a part of and recognizing that they are not obligated to do anything. There have been some instances where we don't give that form, and we've differentiated between exempt and non-exempt employees. So somebody out on maternity leave, a faculty member out on maternity leave, we will let them have their email account, but we take them off all the lists unless they sign that waiver that says that they acknowledge that they're voluntarily staying on that, those things. However, we've also had employees, exempt employees, who we've suspended accounts and done it that way. I understand them not wanting to lose folks, but there's, as you just said, there's absolutely a liability issue for you all. And IT should be supporting whatever you need to do for the letter of the law.
Absolutely. That's great. All right. I think that's a really good place for us to wrap things up. I know we all probably need to take a quick break before we jump into our next breakout session. So don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Peter. Our information is actually included, I think, on the last slide of the presentation. I don't know if we put our email addresses on there, but we will before we post it.
Yes, you did. You did.
Perfect.
Oh, there we go.
Awesome.
So you'll get access to that.
There we go. Yeah.
Hope that was
All right.
useful.
Thank you guys so much for.
thank you, everybody.